Hey, what's up guys? My name is Moda and welcome back to the Mining Stacker YouTube channel. Today's video is going to be titled Grow or Die. So we're going to talk about as to why continued growth during this time, at least for me, is a huge priority. Okay, so going to talk about kind of what that means. It's not necessarily mean buying all the hardware you can. It just means you want to just continue to accrue coins in some capacity, right? So we're going to talk about why it's imperative and super important for me, and kind of just talk about the struggles also, right? It's easy to say it, but it has been hard to accrue hardware during this time, right? Just because of profitability and such. So we're going to just talk about the whole thing, right? We're going to talk about what I'm looking at, what I'm doing about it, and the struggles about it, right? Because it's been a kind of a rough time depending on which route you decided to go through, right? Whether it was buying coins, GPU mining, CPU mining, ASIC mining, there's been struggles, right? It hasn't been all easy street, right? So we're going to talk about that, just different strategies, and kind of just chat about it, right? So if that sounds good, guys, stay tuned. Let's get to this thing. So the number one thing for me and why it's kind of starting to feel the pinch a little bit is timing, guys. Timing. We are now halfway through this year. We are now in June. And if we go by previous cycles, right, if we go by the last cycle, the halving was in May. You kind of see here when it really starts popping off, and it was around October when we really did start seeing the crazy action, right? And it doesn't mean also it's up and to the right. Everybody kind of gets that misconception. Also, it's a bumpy road, right? As you zoom in, there's ups and downs. There's different things going on. We can have Black Swan. Like there's a lot of different things, but we can see typically the uptrend did start in October. So even just purely going by that sense, it's in as little as 4 months away. Okay, and then just factor in that this halving was a month ahead of time, right? It was in April versus May. That's potentially another month, and then add the fact that everything seems extremely accelerated. Okay, we hit our previous all-time high prior to the halving, which was something different. So the biggest thing for me is just timing. I feel like we are kind of getting to the point where you really haven't gone in, you may want to consider. Okay, so it's just, again, it's different things. That doesn't even necessarily mean, oh, I'm going to buy whatever hardware. It's kind of hard because prices are definitely much more elevated than they were, for example, a year ago, right? And depending on what you're doing, right, that comparison is mainly with ASICs and with just buying the coins in general. Currently, they are a lot higher now than they were then. Not necessarily the case with like GPUs and such. They're essentially the same price. If anything, they may have gone down a tad. Okay, so it kind of just depends on what you're doing, what you're looking at, what you want to expand, and where you see value. Okay, so it's another comparison we have is just buying like coins outright. Okay, even at that point with certain things, we are kind of running out of time. A lot of the top alts did run up. There are still opportunities, right? I'm not trying to shill next or anything, but just giving an example of things I'm looking for. So if there are projects that I still do feel have potential, when I see them still at like all-time lows and sentiment is like all-time low and I do see potential there, right? This is kind of the time to potentially buy a little bit more. I did purchase a good chunk when it was a little bit higher, so I'm okay with the amount I allocated. So again, not necessarily saying to buy next or anything of that sort. Just these are the types of things I want to look for with other coins, right? So for example, with me, a lot of more established coins, I'm kind of done with there. Right now, I am starting to look more into like mid to smaller caps and extremely tiny like micro caps such as like Nex and such, right? That's kind of where my focus has been, just because I feel that there's more potential value for those coins that I believe in or that I believe can potentially do well, right? Whether it's based on the coin itself, based on the project, based on the community, the pumpamentals, trends, narratives, right? It really depends on where your focus is at, but not a bad time to be DCAing, right? I know currently it's kind of rough buying hardware, especially in the GPU realm. Okay, it's been extremely hard. Like my focus was to potentially try to add another couple of rigs, but it's just not looking too hot, right? So I'm definitely looking to continue to expand. A lot of mine has been just buying coins, right? It's been buying coins and then the ASICs. The ASICs is just where I just continue to see a much better value. So that's just where my focus is. Okay, I'm at the point now where probably going to start considering selling some of them and trying to flip over, right? So the plan was initially flip over 100% to GPU mining. But I'm not necessarily super convinced on what to get yet, right? That doesn't mean I'm saying, oh, GPU mining's dead. I'm just going to add where I think there's going to be more value, okay? Or what is more likely to also increase in price within the next 6 months. For me personally, I see it being ASICs. I see ASIC prices going higher between now and the next 6 months, especially for the ASICs that I'm interested in. GPUs, just because of how low the sentiment is and how bearish people are all in, I still think there is a little bit more time for me to decide ultimately what I want to go with, right? So that doesn't mean I'm like doom and gloom on GPU mining. If anything, I probably will be adding, just not sure where to go yet, right? Most likely what I will be looking at actually is CPUs, right? So, and for the pretty much the sole purpose of, number one, being able to CPU mine, but also take advantage of like the AI narrative, which is going to be coming, right? And a lot of you guys have been getting interested in like salad and things of that sort, and that's kind of where, kind of a little intrigued by that also, right? So in preparation for that, just because I see that may be a thing in the future, or even just now currently, right? CPUs are definitely on my horizon, especially with these Ryzen 9000 series coming out. Not necessarily looking at 9000 series. What I'm really looking at is discounted 7000 series, right? So potentially as soon as like next month, right? We have like Amazon's Prime Day. See a pretty good potential for finding some deals there. There are some pretty good deals right now, even actually. But it's kind of just depends on where your focus is, okay? So like my main focus, again, where I'm prioritizing adding or growing is adding another ASIC, right? That's just me personally where I'm at. Okay, I know that's not something that for a lot of you guys isn't necessarily reasonable. The only reason I'm even up to this point where I'm considering some of these more expensive ASICs is just because of the risks we took last year. A lot of them panned out extremely well. So I'm using that fund, those gains to try to continue to grow. Like for example, even like when I purchased my KS3M, I purchased it with existing Caspa that I had. And that has played out extremely well. So that way I was able to, instead of just letting that Caspa sit, I, in a sense, put that Caspa to work, right? So then I have been able to recoup the amount of Caspa I used to purchase that unit. That Caspa is now back in there. That bag is now filled. And now I have an extra piece of hardware. Okay, that's just one way I've been growing, because it's been hard, bros. It's been hard to like put that capital out up front. And again, I've been trying to grow from within the business, right? I kind of have this separated from everything else. I've been trying to let my own crypto mining ecosystem grow itself. And this is something I have been struggling with. It has been hard because, like, as you saw with the KS3M, I used kind of existing funds to grow it, right? It didn't necessarily put additional capital in or use profits to do that. I mean, in a sense, I kind of did, right? But I did it with the intention of just putting those coins back in, not necessarily using the profits and then just continuing, right? Because that was the strategy when I was GPU mining. And the goal realistically was try to do the same thing. But for me, ultimately, what I decided is going to be best is just mining and holding, okay? And for those reasons, it does make it very difficult to grow, right? Versus in the GPU days, there was so much profit that every month I would take a certain amount and buy another GPU, buy another GPU, and it's so much easier to scale with GPUs. And it's a little bit more of a struggle to grow now just because there really isn't much profit, right? Especially with GPUs. Making 60-cent profit for a card, or like a 40.90, $1 a day profit on a $1,500 GPU, kind of hard to grow with that. Okay, so a lot of it is just based off of speculation, right? It's just speculating that we think it'll grow. And you kind of have to go with your gut what you think is going to be the best. I mean, there is no wrong or right answer, right? GPU mining might be struggling now, but 6 months from now, we do get some coin that begins to pop off, and you do extremely well there, right? Or you pick the right coin to spec mine, and the thing lists, and you're able to make a ridiculous amount of money there as well, right? Or whether you're into, same thing with CPUs or ASICs, whatever it is, it's just imperative that we try to find a way to grow, right? And in some cases, it could be even just turning off completely, right? Turning off completely, and instead of mining the coin, maybe at this point your electric rate went up, or you're just tired of the heat, you want things to take a break, just turn your rigs off and buy the coin manually. But the goal is to try to just continue to keep accruing, right? So even if you aren't growing in like hardware numbers, just continue to keep stacking those bags in some capacity. Okay, so in the sense with like GPUs and such, like if I was 100% GPUs, For me, it's a bit different because I pay my electric out of pocket, so break even or better, I'm good with that. If I was at a point where it's like, man, I think my electric's getting too high, I want to take a break, you could always unplug, guys, and just use part of that money. Maybe you have something else coming up, maybe you have other expenses, and instead of paying that big electric bill, maybe only DCA $100 that month, right? And then just do what you will. But the goal should always just try to continue to grow in some capacity, right? And I know some of you guys are at the point where, man, my electric did go up way too much. It's not going to be possible anymore. You can always sell those GPUs, guys. You can sell those GPUs, use that to revenue to buy extra coins. Or I know some of you guys are also in the mindset where even though you're not mining, you're kind of hoarding these coins, or hoarding these cards. You're kind of waiting for these like clearance deals for people to kind of like just give up. I know some of you guys have been picking up like freaking 3070s for like sub 200, 3060 Ti's for $150. I haven't been that lucky. If I would definitely bought another rig by now. But and some of you guys are getting them not even with the intention in mind, just to on the speculation fact that it may go up in the bull market, right? Same thing with like people buying these cheap S19s, S19Ks, doing kind of the same thing, right? Which is, if you find value in that, then go for it. For me personally, I'd rather do something where I'm able to mine the coin or mine whatever and then sell it, right? To me, there's just more value there. I'm going to be more profit there, and that's where my eye would be. But again, it's up to you to determine which route is going to be best, okay? As we look at like different hardware prices, and this is where it gets hard, and this is where it does get like extremely tricky, right? Because at this point, for a lot of these altcoin ASICs, again, a lot of them have run up a lot. Prices have gone up. And a lot of these prices for these newer altcoin ASICs are getting to the point where they're outrageous. Okay, realistically, I know I'm like, it's been my big debacle. Should I get a KS5 or a L9? In reality, it's pretty freaking ridiculous to even be really considering $10,000 plus ASICs. Okay, like if I was a newbie or just getting in the game, hell to the no, right? I'm only comfortable with doing this just because, again, all the risks we took, everything that's happened in this past year, all the profits had, I feel comfortable taking a risk that big. But if you're somebody new, it's been rough. It has been hard because typically the easiest way to continue to grow and scale has been with GPUs. And that's why it's such a struggle, man. And that's why I do want GPUs to do well. But it's at the end of the day, you have to kind of go wherever the value is, right? And me personally, again, this is just me. I see the value to me is just with ASICs, right? So that's where my next big venture is going to be, most likely, it's not 100%, is going to be another big ASIC, okay? Whether or not it comes to fruition, we'll see. That's just definitely where I am leaning towards, okay? So it's hard because I get it, prices on everything, even like all of these with the diminishing returns, and like it is extremely hard, right? And it's hard too because typically if we go down the list as far as which other ones have been, pretty solid earners, they have potential, some of them are break even or better. They're at the point now where they're a year and a half old. At this point, to me, the risk just increases for a newer model coming out, right? So again, part of my strategy, especially with the ASICs, is just latest or greatest or nothing. Okay, like I'm not gonna be trying to mess with getting some of these others and then risk, the new model coming out 6 months from now, which I fully expect, especially once we start creeping up in price, right? Let's say this does begin to happen. We do start seeing this bull section in like October, November. That's when I see a lot of ASICs coming out, right? That's when we're gonna see between what happens in the fall and the spring. It's going to be a ton of them, because they know that's going to be prime time for selling, because they're going to be able to charge a crazy amount because they are going to most likely be extremely profitable. And at that point, whatever garbage comes out is also going to be profitable, right? So even like less efficient, older hardware, probably going to be profitable at that time also. So we're going to see a big resurgence. But for me, I want to get in before those price pumps. Okay, for me, that's why, like, if I were to get another ASIC, timing is everything. Okay, and let's say you're in a position where you don't want to do ASICs, GPUs, you're kind of nervous about the prospect. Because like for me, for example, I'm comfortable holding on to all my GPUs and continuing to mine is just because I'm fully convinced it's going to do good, right? Is it going to do as good as some of these ASICs? No, and that's why my priority is on these ASICs. Once I'm maxed out on the next gen of ASICs where I want to be at, then I'll decide what I tend to add for GPUs, right? Is it going to be more 3000 series cards, or it's going to be some 4 or 5,000 series cards with the intention of being able to not only mine, but take advantage of the proof of useful work aspect, right? Typically those type of projects, AI, rig rentals, etc., right? Another big aspect, and this is one where I grew a good chunk in, is with DePIN things, right? So my kind of strategy was like, well, I'm kind of maxed out where I want to be in terms of my electric. So if I want to add things, I either want to be buying coins or do things that take little to no power. And that's why this spring, that was a big, or really started the winter. Winter of 23 is when I kind of decided that that was the route. That's when I went big into DePIN projects and then like airdrop farming. Both of them have been extremely lucrative. One of them, I'm pretty much all the way out now, right? And that's with the airdrop farming. It's becoming extremely oversaturated. I'm happy I got what I got at the times that I did, but now everything that I had, staked and kind of in DeFi, everything is coming out, right? So I'm at the point where that portion is all done. The last one I was waiting for was like Eigen, which was a disappointment, but luckily some of the other plays panned out, so that was all gravy, right? And that was all just from coins that I was already going to hold anyway, right? So it was a win-win. And then as far as the DePIN projects, it was Demo, Hive Mapper, buying the original Hive Mapper, and then also even got 2 of the new ones, which will come out whenever they come out. As well as the Sword Chain, the Helium things. Those Helium mobile things were extremely good, and even right now when they're like super down, they're still doing fairly well, especially in comparison to some of the other things, right? When compare with pure profitability to the GPUs, even as low as they are doing extremely well, right? Especially in comparison to those things and even some of the ASICs, right? Because some of the ASICs are currently barely break even. Okay, for me, the criteria, again, break even or better, I'm good. But it's getting a little squirrely, right? Another thing you can consider growing with is like, okay, let's say you don't have capital, you're already all the way in. Try to jump on some of those free things, right? We've talked about Natix before. There's been some bullish things going on here as well. This is one of those things where you don't need any specialized hardware. You use your own camera or your own phone as the camera, and that's how you're able to, jump on the network and potentially earn coins, right? It's currently still testnet, hasn't gone officially mainnet. But again, it's another easy way if you are trying to earn more coins. Another one we've mentioned before is like Grass, which is just a little extension. It runs in the background. Will it turn into anything? Maybe, maybe not. Maybe it'll turn to $50, but again, it's not really using any resources. It's super easy. It's just sitting there. If it turns into $50, it's $50 more, right? At this point, it's why not? Accuras is another one that's been getting talked about. This is using cell phones, right? Again, it's another one that if you have a spare phone lying around, like once I get my old Pixel repaired, I'll probably throw this thing on there. Just why not, right? It's just sitting there doing nothing as a backup phone. Might as well do something with it. And then we mentioned Helium, which for me, the mobile, that was outdoor mobiles, Wi-Fi units have been extremely good, right? And then even as far as like adding other hardware, again, even like GPUs, I'm pretty sure I'm going to end up buying one of these things, or at least a couple of them. For you guys who haven't watched the Crude Man, he talked about these things quite extensively. Pretty good freaking deal from PCSP. $300 for X12. I would recommend not only subbing to Crude Man's channel, but watching that video. He talks about it in depth. The pros and cons, because this is not a typical X12, right? It's made for very thin cards, so just factor that in. Watch his video, though. Very, very good information there. So even just like infrastructure plays, like infrastructure things to increase it, like currently right now, I'm not going to be buying GPUs really right now, but this is something that in the future is going to be a lot more expensive, and at least I have it there, right? At this point, I don't see the prices going down, even if I decide to go fully ASIC. I think things are going to get better for GPU mining here eventually. I think it'll be worth more than that, and hopefully I'll be putting them to work instead, though, right? The goal is to add some more GPUs and go from there. Again, you want to focus on, you can start growing other things as well. You can focus on your local situation, right? Good time right now to buy spare parts. Again, probably going to buy another one of these things. I found one for $50, $15 shipping, so $65. which again, these are some of those things that in the bull market were like ridiculously priced, right? Because this is something that if you're a at-home miner, whether you're ASIC, GPU, whatever kind of mining, even these things were a struggle to find, right? Especially at decent prices. You can find them like $200-300, but I don't think you're gonna be seeing these things for like $50-60 6 months to a year from now, right? Depending on where you want to expand, what you want to do. So it's just different things, guys. I know it's kind of a struggle right now, but I even had to add up how many things I'm freaking running right now, and it's kind of like add it up, it's like 18 freaking things bringing in income, right? So if we go down the list, it's the KS0 Pro, the KS3M, the K7, the K83, the HS3. Do have my one GPU rig of 10 cards, the E100 back there that's also running. I do have a spare desktop with the 3080 that I did have on io.net for the test net. I am going to pull it off and going to be doing something else with it. Might just play around with Salad with that thing. I have my 3 Helium mobile Wi-Fi hotspots, the 2 outdoors, the 1 indoor, my Helium IoT device, 2 demos, the Hive Mapper, the Sword Chain, and then Natix and Grass, right? So just out of those things, those are 18 different things that are all bringing in daily revenue of some sort, right? Some of them are testnet things where it's just tokens, but eventually, hopefully, they'll be worth something. Will it be worth much? Who knows? But it's just constant growth, right? And this is not even factoring in all the staking things, right? So I pulled all my DeFi stuff out. All that now is going to be in the wallets. But even just native staking, it's about 30% of my portfolio is natively staked, earning on average about 10% interest. Okay, so it's those 18 things plus a third of my portfolio bringing in daily staking rewards also. Okay, so that's how I'm continuing to grow. Okay, and hopefully the next step for me is another ASIC. If I don't do the ASIC thing, it probably will just be GPUs, right? In some capacity, we'll see what it is, but I'm 80-90% sure it is going to be another big boy ASIC. Okay, so, and then potentially some CPUs. Do want to add 3 to 4 CPUs, right? Just to kind of play with, have them there, try the compute thing. We'll mess around with it. We'll see what's up. But that's kind of my potential plan here. Again, there's no best way to do this. It's kind of wherever you see the value in, right? And as you can kind of tell, my focus has definitely heavily been based on the big ASICs just because the potential, right? Just timing is kind of lining up. I gotta make up my choice because especially right now, we've been pumping today. It's kind of a big fan these past few days when we're dipping down. It's like I want to make my choice before we do have a big run up, right? Because at this point, I know we talked about earlier with, we go by the potential cycles, it's gonna be potentially October, September, somewhere in that time frame. But in reality, it can happen at any given moment, right? Any big potential news could kickstart this thing early. Okay, so it's really hard to say where we're gonna go, what's gonna happen, but I just do know that my goal is just continue to grow, right? Continue just stack coins, stack hardware, stack DePIN things, everything, just however, by whatever means necessary, right? So let me know how you guys are doing. Have you guys been struggling? I know it's been hard, man. Especially I know for a lot of you guys who are strictly GPU and GPU only. So I've been doing a big thing to kind of expand people's horizons a little bit, just to explore different things, right? That way you're not so into one thing, that way you're diversified, right? And then once you're diversified, you kind of get a little taste of this, a little taste of that. You can see what you can do, and then you can kind of pivot to where you see the value in. And that's kind of been my strategy, even just on the hardware front, but even like on the coin front, right? Like what I've been doing the past few months is kind of buying things, buying, $100 here, $100 there, kind of seeing now where I see the narratives going, and then eventually selling those into the ones that are going in the direction that I do want, right? So it's kind of generalized. I know this is kind of tricky, but the same mentality, I kind of apply it to like everything, right? And so far, for me at least, it's been working. Again, it's come up with that game plan, guys. Think of what you're going to do. Think of the potential you see, and just continue to try to grow in some capacity, right? I get it. Everybody's financial situation is different. I know things are kind of getting a little roughish. And with summer coming up, it may be time to unplug for some of you guys, but just that money you were going to be using towards paying that electric, use it towards continuing to grow in some capacity, whether it's Okay, I'll take a break for a couple months, and instead of paying that electric bill with that same money, I'll buy another GPU, 2 GPUs, or I'll buy some of the coins outright just because there are some pretty good deals right now. Especially right now when everybody's so bearish, this is a good time to be stacking. But it's totally up to you, right? So let me know in the comments, guys, how you guys have been doing. Has it been kind of a struggle? Have you been doing okay? Or I know some of you guys, kind of like me, where you just had the plan and you're just executing, right? To me, that's the easiest way, guys. Plan, get ahead of things, take the emotions out, and just do the damn thing, right? So again, guys, let me know. Thank you for watching, guys. Please comment, like, and subscribe, guys, and I am out.